An electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, attack is a terrifying prospect. It's a silent and invisible threat. A nuclear weapon detonated high above the Earth's surface would create a massive burst of electromagnetic energy. This energy surge would fry electronics over a vast area. Everything from power grids to computers to cars could be rendered useless. Imagine a world plunged into darkness. Communication systems fail. Transportation grinds to a halt. Hospitals are left without power. Food spoils in unrefrigerated homes and stores. This is the potential nightmare scenario of an EMP attack. The threat is not hypothetical. The technology exists and is well understood. Rogue nations or terrorist groups could acquire the capability to launch an EMP attack. The consequences of such an attack would be catastrophic. Our modern world is incredibly reliant on technology. An EMP attack would cripple our infrastructure and plunge us into chaos. We must take the threat seriously and prepare for the possibility of such an event. The impact of an EMP attack on our critical infrastructure would be devastating. The electrical grid, our most vital lifeline, would be severely damaged. Transformers, crucial for transmitting electricity over long distances, are particularly vulnerable to EMP. Their destruction would plunge entire regions into darkness. Communication systems would also collapse. Cell phone towers, satellites, and radio networks would be knocked offline. Emergency responders would be unable to communicate with each other or with the public. The flow of information essential for coordinating a response would cease. Transportation would come to a standstill. Cars with electronic ignitions would refuse to start. Airplanes would fall from the sky. Trains would be stranded on the tracks. The transportation of goods and people, the lifeblood of our economy, would be severely disrupted. The breakdown of these critical infrastructures would have cascading effects on every aspect of our lives. Food supplies would be disrupted. Medical care would be severely limited. Law enforcement would struggle to maintain order. The fabric of society could unravel in the aftermath of an EMP attack. The threat of EMP is not new. During the Cold War, the United States conducted a high-altitude nuclear test called Starfish Prime in 1962. The test demonstrated the destructive power of EMP. Even though the detonation occurred hundreds of miles above the Pacific Ocean, it caused electrical disruptions in Hawaii, thousands of miles away. Streetlights went out and electronic systems malfunctioned. Starfish Prime was a relatively small detonation compared to modern nuclear weapons. A larger detonation at a higher altitude would have a far more devastating impact. The range of the EMP effect would be exponentially greater, potentially affecting an entire continent. The Starfish Prime test serves as a stark reminder of the real-world consequences of EMP. It is a historical precedent that should not be ignored. We have witnessed the destructive power of EMP firsthand. We must learn from the past and take steps to protect ourselves from a future EMP attack. Experts have been sounding the alarm about the threat of EMP for years. The late Dr. Peter Pry, a leading expert on nuclear strategy, dedicated his career to raising awareness about EMP. He warned that an EMP attack was not a question of if, but when. Pry argued that rogue states like North Korea or Iran could potentially acquire the capability to launch an EMP attack. He also warned that terrorist groups could obtain nuclear weapons and detonate them at high altitude, causing widespread EMP damage. The potential consequences of an EMP attack, according to Pry and other experts, are dire. Millions of Americans could die within a year of an attack due to starvation, disease, and societal collapse. The economic cost would be immeasurable. The United States could be plunged into a new dark ages. These warnings should not be taken lightly. Experts in nuclear weapons technology and national security are sounding the alarm. We must heed their warnings and take action to mitigate the threat of EMP. Section 5. The government's response: too little, too late. The government has been slow to respond to the threat of an EMP. While some steps have been taken, much more needs to be done to protect our critical infrastructure and prepare for the potential consequences of an attack. In recent years, there has been growing awareness of the EMP threat within government circles. Congressional hearings have been held and reports have been commissioned on the potential impact of an attack. However, translating this awareness into concrete action has been a slow and often frustrating process. Some progress has been made in hardening certain critical infrastructure against EMP. For example, the military has taken steps to protect its own command and control systems. However, the vast majority of the civilian infrastructure remains highly vulnerable. The government's response to the EMP threat has been characterized by bureaucratic inertia and a lack of urgency. While some progress has been made, much more needs to be done to adequately address this existential threat. Section 6. Shielding our nation, a multi-pronged approach. Protecting our nation from the threat of EMP requires a multi-pronged approach. We need to harden our critical infrastructure, develop robust missile defense systems, and educate the public about the importance of personal preparedness. Modernizing our electrical grid is crucial. We need to replace outdated and vulnerable transformers with more resilient models. We also need to bury critical power lines underground to protect them. While this would be a massive undertaking, it is essential for ensuring the continued functioning of our society in the event of an attack. Developing a robust missile defense system is another critical component of our defense against EMP. We need to be able to intercept and destroy enemy missiles before they can detonate a nuclear weapon at high altitude. This requires continued investment in research and development of advanced missile defense technologies. These measures will require significant investment and a sustained national commitment. However, the cost of inaction is far greater. Protecting our nation from EMP is an investment in our future. Section 7. Preparing for the unthinkable. A citizen's guide. While the government has a responsibility to protect the nation from EMP, citizens also have a role to play in preparing for the unthinkable. By taking simple steps to increase our own self-sufficiency, we can enhance our resilience in the aftermath of a disaster. One of the most important steps is to create an emergency preparedness kit. This kit should contain enough food, water, and essential supplies to last your family for at least 2 weeks. It should also include a first aid kit, a hand-crank radio, and copies of important documents. Learning basic survival skills is another important step. Knowing how to purify water, start a fire, and provide basic first aid can make a critical difference in a disaster situation. There are many resources available online and in libraries that can teach you these skills. Preparing for an EMP attack is not about giving in to fear, but about taking responsibility for our own well-being. By taking simple steps to increase our self-sufficiency, we can face the future with greater confidence. Section 8. The importance of individual action. While the threat of EMP may seem overwhelming, it is important to remember that individual actions can make a difference. By taking steps to prepare ourselves and our families, we contribute to the overall resilience of our communities. When individuals are prepared, they are less likely to require assistance from already strained emergency services in the aftermath of a disaster. This allows first responders to focus on those who are most in need. Furthermore, individual preparedness fosters a spirit of self-reliance and community resilience. When people are confident in their ability to cope with adversity, they are more likely to help their neighbors and work together to overcome challenges. Every person who takes the threat of EMP seriously and takes steps to prepare is contributing to a safer and more resilient society. In the face of an unprecedented threat, our collective strength lies in the preparedness of individuals. Section 9. The future is in our hands. The threat of EMP is a stark reminder of the fragility of our modern world. Our reliance on technology, while bringing countless benefits, has also made us vulnerable to new and potentially devastating threats. However, this vulnerability does not have to be our destiny. By recognizing the threat of EMP, investing in robust mitigation strategies, and embracing a culture of preparedness, we can safeguard our nation and our way of life. The future is not predetermined, it is shaped by the choices we make today. We must choose to confront the threat of EMP with clear eyes and a resolute spirit. We must choose to invest in the technologies and strategies that will protect us. And we must choose to empower ourselves and our communities with the knowledge and skills necessary to thrive in the face of adversity. Being prepared is the key to survival.